I'm ranking each move for every type. And to kick off this series, we are starting with the Dragon type. The Dragon type is notorious for being legendary and strong. And besides like half of the moves having dragon in their name, they have some really cool features. We're going to rank every move of this type, excluding Z moves and max moves of course. I'm going to try to rank these moves in a vacuum, meaning we won't be considering distribution and just how good the move's overall usefulness is in competitive and casual play. Although, more emphasis will be placed on competitive singles and doubles formats. There are 27 moves to rank for this typing, and in the bottom spot, I have the move Twister. This special attack with 40 base power is essentially the starter attack for dragons and some flying types. With a 20% flinch chance, it isn't a terrible move early game and is essentially a slightly upgraded Gust. It's alright neutral coverage, but like all dragon type moves, you aren't getting many super effective hits, so you're mainly using it for stab, which you would replace with pretty much any more powerful attack when you have the chance. On to spot 26, I have Dragon Rage. This move always inflicts 40 HP of damage. This makes it pretty busted in early game playthrough and serviceable even in mid game. It's not viable competitively, besides Little Cup, where it is rightfully banned due to the mons being set to level 5, but I will put it slightly above Twister. Neither of these are useful competitively, and Dragon Rage is at least a really great early game option that is a genuine asset for clearing low HP mons quick. Into the top 25, here we have the move Roar of Time. This signature move of Dialga is 150 base power and 90% accurate. But why is such a powerful move so low? Well, it's because it has the terrible drawback of having to recharge after use. This makes it a nuke that leaves you wide open after use, and there's a reason it isn't used competitively. The miss chance is the icing on the cake here. It still is tied for the second strongest dragon type move, and at least in theory can grab you that crucial KO, or be a huge hit before going down, so I won't put it at the very bottom. Slightly ahead Roar of Time in spot 24, I have Eterna Beam. This Eternatus signature move is 160 base power and 90% accurate. And get this, it has the same recharging drawback as Roar of Time. So they just reskinned Dialga's signature move and made it slightly more powerful with no other real different properties, since Roar of Time isn't even a sound-based move for some reason. So Eterna Beam is just objectively better, but still bad, for all the same reasons. Now we're getting into competitively usable moves in spot 23 with the move Dual Chop. This move is rocking 40 base power and 90% accuracy, but it does hit twice, essentially making it 80 base power. It is almost as strong as some staples we will see later, but lack of secondary effect and the mischance hurts its ranking. Overall, it's a pretty solid move, especially since it can be boosted by abilities like Technician and Tough Claws, but it also procs harmful effects like Rocky Helmet and harmful abilities like Static and Flame Body. Spot 22 is where we might start to get a bit controversial and a little spicy. Yeah, baby! Here I have Dragon Rush. Dragon Rush is pretty powerful at 100 base power, but very risky at 75% accuracy. It also comes with a 20% flinch chance, which helps if you're faster, and is a rare anti-minimize tech, always hitting and doing double damage against minimized foes. But the main and obvious aspect holding this move back from competitive viability is the accuracy. You don't often see moves this inaccurate unless they are really strong, essential coverage, or have great payoff like Magma Storm. This move fails to check any of those boxes, as you are more likely to miss than nab the 20% side effect of getting a flinch. But I would still take it in competitive situations over the recharge signature moves and weak starter moves. Right outside the top 20, in spot 21, I have Dragon Breath. At 60 base power, it isn't quite as strong as the previous few moves, but what it lacks in power, it makes up for in reliability, and more importantly, utility. Dragon Breath is actually the only dragon type move that can inflict a status condition. It has a 30% chance to cause paralysis, which we all know how good that is. The 100% accuracy helps push this move above the others, and 60 base power is at least serviceable damage, especially with stab. Into the top 20, and we are already getting into decent moves. Our first of few status moves appear here in Dragon Cheer. Dragon Cheer is a doubles based support move that raises your allies' critical hit ratio. This gives them a +1, which is about a 1 in 8 chance to crit on an ordinary move. If the target is dragon type though, it will increase your crit rate by 2 stages. This gives you a much better 50% chance to crit with your attacks. This can be a sweet support option for your wall breakers, as you can spam high damage attacks that lower your special attack like Draco Meteor and not suffer the drawbacks while also hitting through any defense boosts. And with a scope lens equipped, you will always crit, so this move has lots of potential, especially on a sniper user. A fairly common attack sees itself in spot 19 with Dragon Claw. This 80 base power, reliable physical attack would definitely be higher if considering distribution, but there are some signature moves that just straight out class it. 80 base power, no drawbacks, and 100% accuracy make this a serviceable stab attack, but lack of secondary effect hurts its ranking. It just doesn't have much to help it stand out, but its power is high enough to at least put it over some other decent moves. And spot 18 is the move Order Up. This is a signature move of Dondozo, and was a weird one to rank in a vacuum. On paper, it is essentially just Dragon Claw with 80 base power and 100% accuracy, but it has a slight benefit of boosting a Dondozo's stat when it is currently slurping down a Tatsugiri. This makes it just objectively a little better, but essentially it is a Dragon Claw clone that benefits 1 mon if in a double battle. Next up in spot 17 is Dragon Pulse. Another move with dragon in its name, this time hitting on the special side. This is pretty much the special equivalent to Dragon Claw, coming in at a slightly higher 85 base power. It is a reliable attack, but like its counterpart Dragon Claw, lacks a secondary effect. This limits it from being ranked any higher because it only provides damage and no utility. It is still decently strong and often used alongside or even sometimes over Draco Meteor since it lacks any drawbacks. Up in spot 16 might be a shocker that you forgot about. We have Dragon Hammer here. This is a 90 base power physical move that can be pretty forgettable. That's because it was exclusive to Longneck McGee over here. They added it to a couple other mons that also pretty much have no use for it, so you never see it competitively. But it is objectively better than Dragon Claw, and since we are ranking these in a vacuum, it must go higher. This move has no secondary effect, which is pretty crazy since it seems like most standard decently powerful moves at least have a 10% chance to do something. But at least users with Dragon Stab would get a pretty powerful attack off that doesn't miss and hits harder than Dragon Claw, which is enough to get it this high. Into the top 15 now, this is where we actually start to see moves with consistent competitive roles. In spot 15, I have Dragon Tail. Dragon Tail is a 60 base power phasing move with 90% accuracy. It has -6 priority, so there's only a few moves that it won't go after, but if it hits, you force the target to swap out into a random teammate. This provides more than damage and is one of only a few phasing moves and one of 2 phasing moves that are also attacks. Bulky mons do enjoy having this to counter setup mons or rack up hazard damage. The reason I have it in the middle of the list is because even though it is a great utility option, it tends to miss at the most crucial times, and many mons prefer to just run more reliable options like Roar and Whirlwind. Spot 14, and here I have Breaking Swipe. This 60 base power attack has been on the rise as a great utility move. It inflicts damage and has a 100% chance to lower the target's attack by 1 stage. This makes you bulkier on the physical side, potentially able to live more hits, slow or stifle setup mons, and just provides all around great team support. what pushes this move up this high for me is its ability to hit both opponents in a double battle. Spread moves are very valuable, and one that does decent damage plus lowers attack for both opponents has to be decently high. It starts to get extremely hard to rank the moves from here on, so I'm going to take a second to remind you to subscribe to the channel. And if you want to help decide which type we're going to cover next, join my Discord server, as I'll be posting polls to figure out what's coming next. On to spot 13, I have an oldie but a goodie. This is the move Outrage, a very powerful move at 120 base power and used on physical dragon types quite often. The issue with this move keeping it out of the top 10 is the commitment to using it. Outrage will lock you in for 2 to 3 turns using it, and you will become confused afterwards. So while it is really strong, there is a big risk to running it. This means a fairy type can come in and be immune the following turn, or your opponent can strategize better knowing you're locked into the move. In doubles, this move will target a random opponent, making it pretty unreliable, which definitely hurts its ranking. But being one of only 2 physical dragon type attacks greater than 100 base power has its merits, and definitely puts it above the other physical dragon attacks that lack the punch Outrage does. Moving to spot 12 is the interesting Fickle Beam. Fickle Beam is Hydrapple's signature move, coming in at 80 base power and 100% accuracy. It's normally slightly weaker than Dragon Pulse, but has a 30% chance to straight up double in base power to 160. This is pretty insane as a secondary effect, and it's kind of like playing the lottery. If you're the opponent, you're way more scared of this move compared to Dragon Pulse, as we're talking the same chance Scald has to burn. You have to respect the possibility of it hitting for insane damage, and can be a workaround to break through a bulky mon heal spamming. This move has an average power of 104, but can also be inconsistent and luck dependent. So it doesn't feel right putting it into the same tier as the next few special moves we're going to cover. This is definitely the most fun dragon type move in my opinion though, as it can be as strong as a Turnibeam without needing to recharge, but also guarantees solid damage either way. Right outside the top 10 in spot 11 is a legendary signature move in Dynamax Cannon. Dynamax Cannon is a signature move of Eternatus and comes in at 100 base power. This special attack has no drawbacks besides low PP. It does kinda have a secondary effect of doubling in power against Dynamax opponents, but I didn't really consider that for the ranking since it is just a Generation 8 gimmick. This is a reliable and strong attack that is essentially a buffed up Dragon Pulse. If it had an actual secondary effect, I could see it easily pushing further up the list, but it is outclassed by some similar moves and doesn't really have much to differentiate itself or give it a niche. Oddly enough, it is immune to Encore and Copycat, likely due to lazy programming, so at least it has that, right? Moving into our top 10, we have the Gen 9 introduced move, Scale Shot. Scale Shot might seem like a typical multi-strike move, but it provides amazing utility for dragon and even non-dragon types. At 25 base power and 90% accuracy, this move will hit 2 to 5 times and raise the user's speed by 1 stage while lowering their defense by 1 stage as well. This does a couple things for the user. First and foremost, the speed increase is huge as you can gain more outspeeds the following turn, which is great for sweepers. This provides move slot compression as you are also hitting decently hard, meaning you can grab a speed boost while taking out your opponent. It being a multi-strike move means that it has the ability to break through a substitute and keep hitting, while also breaking Focus Sash, Multi-Scale, and Sturdy, plus more chances to crit is always fun. With the item Loaded Dice, you can guarantee a 4 or 5 hit Scale Shot, which many Scarf users may swap to, as a speed boost will essentially give them the Scarf boost with the ability to swap up moves. The defense drop is definitely a negative, combined with the fact that you're able to miss this move, and without Loaded Dice it can be as weak as 50 base power, but I feel the extra speed is just way more beneficial in game breaking, as you're more likely to outspeed, grab a sweep, and take less hits altogether. Now in spot 9 it's time to drop a Draco with Draco Meteor. This is a very strong and iconic move at 130 base power and having 90% accuracy. This move is renowned as a nuke button for special dragon types over the generations. 130 base power is hard to swap into and provides a lot more damage than moves like Dragon Pulse and Fickle Beam. 70% of the time, of course. The drawbacks are a slight mischance and, more importantly, it lowers the user's special attack by 2 stages after use, making it less spammable, but normally you want to use this to secure big damage or a KO and then swap afterwards. It is seen on tons of dragon types since it's pretty well distributed, and as far as iconic dragon type attacks go, this is definitely top 2. But the consistency issues are definitely holding it behind a few other special attacks. This move does make sense to even run alongside another dragon type attack because sometimes you just need that extra oomph to get the KO. And as far as that goes, there might not be any special move better than Draco. But you do open the window for something to set up on you with your lowered stats, and the reliance on being able to swap after makes this move harder to use as your match goes on and options dwindle. In spot 8, we're back to signature moves and Spatial Rend. This can definitely be flipped with Draco and even the move in spot 7, but it really depends on your perspective. Spatial Rend is Palkia's signature move, also being special with 100 base power. Compared to a similar move in Dynamax Cannon, there are 2 main differences. The first one, keeping it from being the beneficiary of the 7 spot, is the 95 accuracy. A mischance is a mischance in Pokemon. I don't care what you say. That 5% matters and does come up more than you would think, but it definitely redeems itself enough with its increased critical hit ratio. This brings it from a 1 in 24 chance to crit to a much better 1 in 8. In a vacuum, this is pretty great as Scope Lens would turn this move into a 50% chance to crit, and even without it, you have to respect the higher crit rate. This is good for ignoring special defense buffs, screens, and just getting more damage. It's also a lot more spammable than moves like Draco, as you aren't lowering your special attack. You really just have to watch out for the low PP. So while it is close to Draco and Dynamax Cannon, I think Spatial Rend is just a tad better. In spot 7, I have a potentially controversial pick in Clanging Scales. Komodo's special signature move sits here at 110 base power and 100% accuracy. It has positive and negative traits. I'll give you the bad first. This move will lower the user's offense stat by 1 stage after use. The good though, this is a powerful and reliable sound-based move, meaning it hits behind substitutes. It also can be used to activate the item Throat Spray, which would raise your special attack by 1 stage. Without the defense drop, this move clears almost all dragon type attacks, but that downside is keeping it in check here, as you're losing physical bulk after every use. It's similar to the close combat variations, except for it's a little less powerful, but you're not dropping your special defense. And unlike a move like Draco Meteor, you aren't losing firepower. And unlike Spatial Rend, it won't miss, so it is spammable and reliable for a sweeper to use. So in spot number 6, I have the move Core Enforcer. This is the third of 100 base power special dragon type attacks. Why is this never seen Zygarde signature move so high then? Well, it's actually pretty great, and all the special type dragon Pokemon would love to have it. Even a lot of non-dragon types would love it in their arsenal for its secondary effect. It has double the amount of PP as the last 4 moves, making it better in mid to long-lasting battles. It doesn't have any drawbacks like Draco, Spatial Rend, and Clanging Scales, and it also has a great secondary effect of suppressing the target's ability if they already moved in the turn. So you could turn off annoying abilities and beat mons you normally couldn't beat by removing an immunity, or even just negating utility abilities that disrupt your game plan. Definitely an underrated move thanks to only being accessible on one line that doesn't really have a use for it since they favor physical attacks. But in a vacuum, Core Enforcer definitely deserves its high placement as a powerful and reliable attack with a potentially really useful secondary effect most dragon types would use if they had their choice of stab. Okay buds, into the top 5 now, the cream of the crop for dragon type moves. In spot 5, our 4th signature move in a row appears in Dragon Darts. This one belongs to Dragapult and is the most complex dragon move for sure. At 50 base power and 100% accuracy, Dragon Darts smack you on the physical side and hits twice. 2 Dreepies get launched, giving this move effectively 100 base power in singles. Multi-strike moves have the advantage previously mentioned of being able to break a substitute and continue to deal damage while ignoring annoying items and abilities that might stop your sweep. In singles, the cool thing is that you get the 100 base power guaranteed without needing to run loaded dice. In doubles, this move will target each opponent for a 50 base power hit, but has smart targeting. This does a lot of things that I go into depth on my video about obscure mechanics, but the cliff notes are essentially that Dragon Darts won't target into an immunity, a slot that would miss, be protected, and many other factors, and instead will double target into a slot that would hit to get the full amount of damage. This takes the guessing games out of the picture in doubles, giving you full value. In spot number 4, I have the move Glaive Rush. Exclusive to Baxcalibur, Glaive Rush, to me, is just a way better outrage. At 120 base power and 100% accuracy, this move will not lock you in for 2 to 3 turns or confuse you afterwards. You can also choose who to target in a double battle. Instead, this move does have a downside where the user will take double damage until it acts again. This is way more manageable, especially for fast sweepers and setup mons. You can often just avoid the downside altogether by swapping after use. Or if you KO the opponent with Glaive Rush, just using a different move the following turn before your opponent's axe gets rid of the effect. This is as close to a close combat variation we have for dragon types. And you could even argue that the downsides are less detrimental, as the effects only last between the time this move is used and your next move. So yeah, this move is pretty cracked, in the premier physical dragon type move that you would see used as the primary stab for pretty much all dragons if given the choice. In spot number 3, we see our last attacking move. This is the move Dragon Energy. Regidrago has shown how powerful this eruption variation can be. At 150 base power and 100% accuracy, this move is reliant on the user's HP stat for its base power, being more powerful the healthier the user is. It is as strong or stronger than Draco Meteor if the user is at 87% of their max HP or higher, and stronger than the 100 base power special attacks we've covered as long as you are above 2/3 of your max HP. But you wouldn't usually have to worry about that, as this move can easily pick up one-hit KOs. It is also a spread attack, hitting both opponents in a double battle, which can just erase your opponent's team if used on a strong special attacker. This is a lot more dependent on the mon using it, as a slower Pokemon would opt for a more consistent option like Core Enforcer, but you definitely get the most bang for your buck with Dragon Energy, and I believe it has the highest overall payoff, even if it requires a bit more team support. There's a reason it's banned in Stabmons, as a fast late game dragon type can just clean chip teams with this consistent nuke button. Now for a typing with very few status moves, the ones we do have are off the charts. In spot 2 is the iconic Dragon Dance. Dragon Dance is a first non-signature move since Draco in spot 9, and boy is it a good one. This move increases the user's attack and speed by 1 stage each. You don't need me to tell you how good this move is. It is seen on plenty of dragon types, but also such a great move on any physical attacker, especially ones with middling speed that could use a little boost. Dragon Dance is one of the best setup moves in the game and has no drawbacks. Mons get more out of it than running a double dance set with Swords Dance and Agility or Rock Polish. It essentially frees up a move slot to run more coverage and get those KOs you might not be able to otherwise. This could definitely be argued number 1 for its impact, making even mediocre mons viable if given a chance to set up, but there's one move I think would be even better to have overall. So what's number 1? Well, we have another status move and Clangorous Soul. Como-O gained a second signature move that replaced his signature Z move, Clangorous Soul Blaze. While it isn't quite as OP as that was, it does still have too good of an effect to not be number 1. This move will give the user an Omni Boost, which is a +1 to both your attacking and defensive stats, plus speed. This is the only non-Z move that can do this.
Nice.
Of course, this has to come with a downside, which is sacrificing 1/3 of your max HP. But it is definitely worth the trade-off since you become 50% bulkier, faster, and stronger all in one move. This can definitely be used as a win condition, kinda like Shell Smash, where you have to just find a 1-turn window to use it and then sweep. It can work on physical, special, and even mix sets and can be used multiple times in a match. You keep your other 3 move slots open to run whatever you want. You can run Substitute, which will get bulkier and harder to break with the boost, or it can let you dedicate a physical move to beat special walls like Blissey while still running special dual stab to muscle past anything else. There is a reason it is banned in metagames like Balance Hackmons and Stabmons, where it would be absolutely busted when accessible to more Pokemon. I believe this move would not only have the most value on Dragon-type Pokemon, but would be one of the most valuable moves in the game in general, giving it its ranking at the top. It can change an entire game, and you can set up your team to support him on with Clangorous Soul as your ace in the hole. Do you agree with these rankings, or would you change some of them? Which type would you like to see in the next video? Let me know if you enjoy the rankings in a vacuum setting, or if you prefer me to rank them while factoring distribution. This pretty much affects the rankings of signature moves for the most part. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be notified when the next type ranking comes out. Special shout out to my YouTube and Patreon members, including Goldbud, Mr. Frank Beans. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check this one out next. Thanks for watching, buds, and I'll see you in the next one.